If you have a challenge with the starting system of your vehicle, one of the following is the culprit. 1. You have a flat starter battery. 2. Your alternator isn't doing its job. Or 3. Your starter is going out. Of these challenges, the alternator is the least understood and most challenging when it comes to testing. If your starter battery keeps going flat and you are not sure if the alternator is doing its job, today I will show you how to test your alternator without a multimeter. All you need is this dedicated battery tester, the Foxwell BT705. It's a dedicated battery tester, but also does a lot of other things. I'll link to it in the description below so you can take a detailed look at it at your pleasure. To successfully test an alternator without a multimeter, you will need a battery tester. Anyone will do, actually, provided it comes with the alternator testing feature. For this test, I'm using the Foxwell BT705 battery tester, which I've linked to in the description below. Hook the battery tester to the terminals of your starter battery, making sure that you hook the positive clamp to the positive battery terminal first, and then the negative clamp to the negative terminal of the battery. For the Foxwell BT705, a brief initialization will come on, and then the battery's voltage will be displayed on the screen. Press enter on the keypad of the battery tester to continue. This battery tester comes equipped to test both 12 and 24 volt battery systems. Select the appropriate volt system your battery uses, which will likely be the 12 volt system. Selecting the type of battery you have in the vehicle is next, regular or the start-stop type. Since I have the regular battery type here, I'll simply go with the first option and enter it. When done with that, what's next is whether the battery is either in or out of the car. For the alternator test, it's very important that the battery is in the vehicle and you actually select the option that reads in vehicle. Now, this battery tester is more detailed than most of the other options I've come across. After indicating that the battery to be tested is in the vehicle, you will need to confirm whether the clamps are hooked to the top or side of the battery terminals. This gives the tester the chance to deliver the most accurate results possible. Select as appropriate. In my case, I've clamped the tester to the top of the battery terminal, so I'll be selecting the top post option. Right after selecting where the clamps are connected to the terminals, you will need to select the type of battery your car is running. For most vehicles, this will be regular, meaning the common lead acid battery type. This is also the battery type I'm using for this test. However, be sure to select what matches what you're using in your vehicle for the most accurate results. Next, select the battery standard and enter the corresponding rating. I'm using the European norm, that is EN standard, and the sticker on my battery says the rating is about 640. Be sure to enter what on your battery. The last step is to click on the middle enter button and the results will be displayed in about 10 seconds. If there's a surface charge dictated on your battery, you'll be notified. To get the most accurate results, you will need to clear it off, which is as easy as turning on the headlights. Don't worry, the cord on this tester is long enough to have you reach the cabin and perform this test while keeping things firmly connected under the hood. Once the surface charge is cleared, you'll be notified to power off the headlights and an elaborate summary of the battery and its condition will be displayed for your consumption. First, you will have a summary of the battery's condition that tells you directly what you should do. Since my starter battery isn't exactly in the best condition, it suggests that I replace it, which comes as no surprise to me, given that this starter battery has seen better days and is clearly close to the end of its service life. After the battery summary, there's the volts as tested. In my case, it's 12.49, which is average. Next, it shows the result of the battery standard earlier entered. In my case, it indicates an EN of 345 against the manufacturer rating of 640. It's against this that the tester recommended that I replace, or rather prepare to replace, the starter battery, which I completely agree. Pressing the next button takes you to more battery details: resistance, state of health, and state of charge, all vital information that helps the tester reach its verdict. At this point, the battery tester asks you to press enter if you're interested in testing the starter. Since the alternator can only be tested after the starter on this battery tester model, you will need to press enter and then the lone command comes up on the screen: start engine. Immediately after the motor is cranked, a summary is displayed on the tester's screen, summarizing the starter's status. Here, everything ticks out fine, so the summary is cranking normal. If yours isn't normal, you'll be shown exactly what is wrong with your system. Below the summary, there's also the volts and time, which indicates the parameters under which the starter worked to deliver the summary of the results indicated above. Finally, since testing the alternator without a multimeter is the grand aim of this video, I'll press enter on the battery tester and wait. The screen will briefly display checking for alternator output before instructing you to rev the engine with loads off. By loads off, the stereo needs to be off, the AC off, the lights off. Everything that isn't the motor needs to be turned off while you rev the engine, usually around 2000 to 2500 RPM, which is the normal driving and battery charging range. Once the battery tester detects a rise in RPM, it will indicate on the display that engine rev has been dictated and that the engine should now run in idle. Press enter to continue while allowing the engine to idle. The tester will take a few seconds to test the alternator output while at idle and with loads off, and will display accordingly on its screen. The next command is to turn the high beams and blower motor on while the engine is still idling. The idea is to see how the system performs under load when idling. Press enter when you are done carrying out the instructions. The display will read that it's testing the alternator at idle with loads on, and after a few seconds, we ask you to rev the engine again with the loads still on. This tries to simulate charging on load, say during a hot, rainy night when you are using both headlights and AC at the same time. Immediately higher than usual RPMs are dictated, the tester will ask you to turn off loads and now the entire engine, and then press enter to continue. A summary of the alternator is displayed on the screen. In my case here, there's no problem, so it simply says no problem. If you have any issues stopping your alternator from performing its battery charging duty as it should, you also get the summary here. Below, you will also be shown the alternator output when it had no load versus when loaded, or in volts. In a future video, I'm going to show you how to test an alternator with a multimeter. However, it is worth noting that testing an alternator with a battery tester beats using a multimeter because it's easy, smart, and importantly, tests many other things such as battery and starter health, even if you have no idea what the ideal values are or what you should be looking at if you go the multimeter route. For this reason, I strongly advise that if you are not very savvy with a multimeter or have no idea what to look out for, your best bet is a battery tester and not a traditional multimeter. As you can clearly see here, not only do I have smart summaries for all the tests carried out, the summaries are also easy to read and comprehend, even for a beginner who has no knowledge of the complex workings of vehicles or their charging systems. Alternator, cranking, and battery testing results are all here for your smart consumption. An alternator that isn't charging the starter battery well will leave you with a depleted starter battery that cannot start your vehicle, which means you'll be stranded, especially if an automatic transmission powers your vehicle. It's good practice to check the alternator occasionally or at the least when you change starter batteries. This way, you don't start the service life of a new starter battery on an alternator that isn't powerful enough to do its job. Until next time, keep wrenching, take auto DIY seriously, and remember that there is no feeling in the world as fixing your vehicle yourself when it requires attention.